You know what's really funny? The way that you're talking about your friend is the way that I view you. Like, um, you you said how she like her faith was like unwavering, even in like the hardest times, and you know during your hardest times, and even like oh, oh I didn't want to do that. I'm sorry. Um, like during your worst times, when you were sick, but also during just like the regular times when you were happy, your faith has always stayed the same.
Well, welcome to the Pink Society podcast with your co-host. I'm your co-host, DaNietra Hall, and this is my co-host and daughter,
Kendall Joy Hall.
and we welcome you today. So, the Pink Society podcast is about parenting intentionally to nurture a kingdom society. And we just like to talk about our experience, how we parent our children, and our relationship, particularly my relationship with my daughter, and yeah, how we just kind of like navigate life in this crazy world that we're living in. Um, so something happened the other day that I definitely want to talk about, and I was like, "Ooh, this is definitely something that we could talk about on our podcast." And so Kendall Joy was introduced to a friend via her homeschool like advisory teacher, right? And she said, I think these girls make really good friends. They're very similar, all those great things. And they started off, I want to say, emailing each other, right?
Emailing.
Yeah, and then that kind of led to maybe text. You guys text?
Not text,
Oh.
but Pinterest.
Okay. This
and
is so funny.
Well, wait. Emailing, then Instagram, and then Pinterest.
Okay.
So we don't email anymore, but we text on Instagram and Pinterest.
Okay. So, and you guys have been friends for how long? Or like, communicating for how long?
Since
Has it been a year? No?
no.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
It's been since the end of spring.
In the spring.
Yeah.
That's so like, okay. So a few months.
Yeah.
Right?
That's why I laughed.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know. Right? So it's been a few months. And so she follows her on Instagram, and she told her, like, hey, she saw you guys won't see this clip or this episode. Maybe you'll see this clip. I don't know. We might release a clip. I don't know. But we're filming, and the episodes that we're filming, we're releasing clips. So she saw a clip of one of the episodes that we did. And she was like, I didn't know you were a Christian.
Well, actually.
What did she say?
Okay. So it wasn't one of the episodes. It was just my Instagram. Because, I post a lot of, like, faith,
Do you? Do you post?
I don't post a lot on Instagram.
Okay. Because I'm like, I used to run her Instagram, and I'm like, look, dude, I'm not doing that anymore. Bro, you got to do your own stuff.
But I still post on there.
I'm trying to figure out what was faith-based on there.
The school thing, the first day of school. Remember?
I don't know, but
like, Tabitha Brown. When I was like, she's a woman. She's God fearing.
Oh, okay.
That's the post.
Okay. I guess I was looking for something else, but nevertheless, she knew that you were a Christian, right? By looking at your Instagram. So.
And she didn't say like.
What did she say?
just to get the story right.
Okay,
because
tell the story, honey.
She didn't say, I didn't know that you were a Christian. She just like sent me a post on Pinterest that was about God. And she was like, how do you interpret this? And then we just went into like our own conversation about that. And I was like, as a Christian, I find these posts like so interesting. And she was like, I'm Christian too. And that was just really cool.
Okay. Well, either way, because you came to me like, you know, she's a believer, she's a Christian, and then, we didn't know each other were Christians, and then you guys had this, this exchange to where, right, you were really excited about that. So that's like my point. And then when I asked her, I said, well, why were you hiding the fact that you're a Christian? And you said,
I was like kind of offended by that because I wasn't hiding. My posts were on Instagram. Like clearly, like if you're on my Instagram, you know that I'm a Christian. But when I'm talking to people, interacting in regular life and conversations, it's kind of like a thing to where you don't really talk about religion or politics. So I never really bring that up.
I understand that, right? But what's in you is in you. Relationship is in you, right? So that's the difference between religion and having a relationship with God, right? So like nobody wants to hear about religion. That's like, I don't know. When I say nobody wants, maybe somebody does religion. I don't know. I don't want to offend anybody, but I think when you have a relationship with God, it's okay to talk about that. It's okay to express however, without being, and I don't want to use the word ashamed because I know you're not ashamed, but not being fearful or like, or uncomfortable. Maybe that's the best word.
Just like what goes through my mind is that is a good word, fearful. Being fearful of disrespecting someone else because there are Jewish people in the world, there are atheists in the world, and so many other religions.
There's a lot of other people that I don't even want to call it religion, but just have different belief systems. Because you have different belief systems within the Christian faith, right? So, but my point is, we've always taught you all to be respectful, right? So it's not a point of defending, right? It's just a point of, this is who I am. And there's nothing wrong with that. So like, I know people who are atheists. I know people I know a lot of different people, right? And that's fine. They can show up how they show up, and I can show up how I show up. And we don't have to talk about religion or whatever, right? But they still know where I stand, right? Yeah. So that's all I'm saying. I'm saying I think that it's okay and being comfortable in allowing people to know that that you're Christian, that you believe in God, you believe in Jesus, right? And that's okay, because even if they don't, that's okay too. If they want to learn more, they can ask you, they can do whatever, but it's okay, and it doesn't mean that, oh, I'm a Christian and you're not, we can't. No, that's not what that is. What it is just being comfortable with your relationship with God that it doesn't matter who knows. That would be like with me and your father. And if I'm not with your father, like, so it's like, we're not in church together, right? You don't tell people that you're Christian. So it's like, if I'm not with my husband, then, I don't want people to know that I'm married. That's not cool.
Whoa. That's like really bad.
Exactly, right? Yeah. So I wouldn't like hide my ring or, you know, carry myself like an unmarried woman, right?
Oh, no.
And because God is married to the church, you want to be a proud bride, right? You want to be a bride who honors, Christ, right?
Yes.
So I think I'm saying all this to say it's okay to allow people to know who you are in the Lord, right? Because we're not those stuffy type of people. It's okay. Because when I grew up, there were kids that they couldn't play with us because I didn't grow up in the church. So there was this, it gave this air of like, we're better than you. Yeah, it did. It was like, oh, you can't play with those worldly kids. So it was like, like, oh, okay. Like, am I dirty? Like, what's going on here? So I know what that feels like to be othered by somebody based on religion. But a relationship with God will never allow that to happen. Because when Jesus, walked the earth, there was he fellowship with the people that other people look down after, down upon, Yeah. So that's all I'm saying is that you don't have to be fearful, be uncomfortable, or feel that you're going to be judged because of your relationship with Christ. Also, because had I not had a friend that shared with me, and we were not in our best moments of life. Okay? And she shared with me about having a relationship with God. And so I feel like she essentially saved my life. And she shared it with me during a time. I'll make this public. I'll make this okay, so I can talk about it. So my best friend shared with me her relationship with the Lord. She would have been a person that people probably would have judged. Well, they did judge her. She had a baby very young. She's a teenage mom. We were kids. So, that's a lot with that, right? But it didn't stop her from ever seeking the Lord, right? And I was always one of those people that had a lot of questions about stuff. Like, why is all this stuff happening? And like, I'm like, this is, the dots ain't connecting, it's like, it's not, like, I don't know, And so I think watching her faith work out in the most tumultuous times in her life, I think that really opened up my eyes, So my point is, like, being a kid, because I was probably about your age when she, was telling me about, like, her church and her relationship with God and how she prays and all these things. And I was just like, oh, okay.
You know what's really funny? The way that you're talking about your friend is the way that I view you. Like, you said how she, like, her faith was like unwavering, even in like the hardest times. And, you know, during your hardest times, and, you know, even like, oh, I didn't want to do that. I'm sorry. Like during your worst times, you know, when you were sick, but also during just like the regular times when you were happy, your faith has always stayed the same. Like when we were moving to California, I didn't know what was happening, and I don't know if you want to like get into that, but yeah, I just feel like you've always had the same type of faith.
Wow, that's thank you.
I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry. This is it's that's like thank you for that, for saying that, because um that's I'm sorry, y'all. But when you're going through stuff, and I didn't realize, like when I was sick, that you really knew what was going on. I don't think at first you really understood, because I didn't want you to know.
I didn't understand.
Yeah.
Well,
In the beginning, like you didn't understand in the beginning.
I did understand what was going on when you were getting surgery, though. I didn't understand that. Like I didn't understand how serious that was.
But as a parent, you try to do. So I guess what I'm trying to say this correctly and get my thoughts out correctly. But the faith walk is hard because you're literally it's not by sight, right? So it's literally, you know, what you're hoping for, right? And so walking a faith journey is that's a hard thing, right? That at times it's a hard thing. And so a lot of times it's things that you can't explain, right? So for you to say, I saw you, and I saw you through the hard times and through the good times, persevere and have faith. That means a lot. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, because that goes back to, is my makeup jacked up? No. Okay, I'm like, is my makeup jacked up? Producers, like, I'm just kidding. But you know, they say kids don't do what you tell them, they do what you show them. And so I've always wanted to teach you guys certain things by example, right? But because I didn't, like, you know, there's a lot of working moms, and I don't work in that capacity. Like a lot of times I stayed home, you know, I was a stay-at-home mom, and I would do like little side hustles and stuff like that. But I didn't know how that would show up in you all's life. Because remember that, I hate to say it, but I'm going to bring it up.
As soon as you said,
I'm sorry.
As soon as you said that you were like you mostly stayed home, I was like, oh no,
like it's coming.
It's coming. She's gonna bring this up.
When you were 6, and in school,
and I don't remember this.
Oh well, I remember it vividly, honey. she was like, I think you were like 6 or 7. And you were like, well, all the other moms have jobs. Like, what do you do? Where do you go? And I was like, what? I'm like, I take care of you. Like, I'm here with you. And you're like, well, everybody else's mama got a job. So I was like, okay. And what did I do?
You got a job.
I got a job. So I was like, okay, I can show you better than I can tell you. But I made sure that oh sorry. But I made sure that job, it was a part-time job, and they knew that you came first. You and Justin came first. It was like, okay, my kids have anything going on.
I'm not gonna say it because I don't know if you want me to. But was this the one that you would like take me occasionally to? I only know one job where you took me occasionally to. It was in the office, you know?
Yeah, I think This had to be the only job. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
Yeah. So, and they were really, that was a cool place to work. Very small office. It's a CPA consulting firm. So yeah, but well, I just totally lost my train of thought. We're talking about sure, yeah, my faith. Yeah. And just so like showing by example. And I figured, other moms who work, they could be showing their kids something that maybe I'm not. You know what I mean? Like maybe they're pursuing, because I'm like, you were like,
I think you work hard. Like,
thank you.
I know what I said that I don't remember. I was probably younger. I was probably 5.
Yeah, you poked my heart. You were saying I work hard.
Yes, you do work hard. Which is funny because you did say, how you've mostly like stayed at home. Mm-hmm. I feel like both you and Daddy are very hard workers. Yeah. Just in the things that you do, like with this podcast, with both of your podcasts. You have 2 podcasts. People can't normally do that. And of course we do have an amazing team, but you're also contributing a lot in this because you're the CEO.
Yeah. But what about like before this? Because it's like
even when you were like an agent and a manager.
But I think what I'm trying to get at is beyond a job. Oh yeah. That's what I thought I was hearing.
Oh yeah, I only brought up jobs, but I'm saying outside of that as well. Yes, you definitely work hard.
It's like I think that we can misconstrue a job and work. Right? Yeah. Because work can be purpose, right? And a job can be temporary. But I've always felt that I was called to my home, right? And so there will always be people that would tell me, your kids are gonna leave you. Like you're doing all of this stuff for them, and they're not gonna remember, and they're just gonna up and leave you, and then like, what are you gonna have left? And I'm like, my kids, like my legacy, and that's fine, and I'm okay with pouring into my children, because that's where I feel God has me, and pouring into my family. That's where I felt like God had me, and has me, and I have no regrets on that. And I'm like, and when they leave the nest, then I will continue to do whatever God has for me next. Yeah, there's a lot of different things that I'm looking forward to in my second wind.
Second wind?
Yeah, like I don't know if I'll ever have grandkids, but
that's up to Justin. Yeah. Oh,
Cue the womp womp womp.
I'm not trying to deal with.
But it's funny. I laugh at that because I didn't want kids. I didn't want a husband. So I mean, that may change. That may not change for her, and that's her choice. But um, I can get my second wind across the pond somewhere. You know, um, living my best life somewhere else. Out of the country.
So you're saying that Justin would move out of the country?
No, I'm saying if you guys don't, I'm talking about both of you, don't have children, there's who knows what I can do.
I don't get what you're saying. Are you saying that you'll like adopt children for us or something?
I'm saying I will live my best life without grandchildren. If you guys don't have grandchildren, but for me,
Justin.
Wow, Justin, the pressure's on. And you don't have to.
I don't know if that's changed, but last time I checked, he did want kids.
Yeah, but he wants to be married and he wants to have things right, which which that is good, and I respect that. So, we don't want to rush him out or call that out too soon. But I got a lot of nieces and nephews, so yeah. I'll just ride that train till they get older and, leave the nest. But yeah, I just want to reiterate, just thank you for seeing me. I think parents, moms, dads, caregivers, we're not really seen. I hear a lot of, so oftentimes with with you all, with my husband, with you all, like I can't join in certain conversations, right? Because usually people are like, oh, my kids, they don't appreciate me. They hate me. They don't like me. My husband, and I'm like, ooh, like I can't, I don't, that's not my life. And it doesn't, and it, and it's not that I'm trying to be, it's not that I'm trying to be like uppity or like, oh no, my life is that. But it's just that the culture in our home is not that. We're not perfect, that's not what I'm saying, but I am saying that is not, our culture. So to hear that you see me and you see your dad and you see that we love you and we work hard and that I don't have to have a job and you see that I work, that means a lot. That does, because a lot of parents don't get that acknowledgement, honor, or recognition. So
Thank you.
I appreciate you. If you can't tell, we love Barbie.
Yeah.
So if that wasn't evident, right, out the pink, but we are definitely Barbie girls. And so she said that you can go ahead and say when I mentioned something.
You said that so many kids don't appreciate their parents, and that really reminded me of the girl, I forgot her name, but Ariana Greenblatt played her, and she just didn't get her mom. She was like, she didn't appreciate her until the very end, and there was no reason as to why she didn't appreciate her. So that just really irritated me.
I think for some, okay, good point. But I think for some kids, they really don't know how to show appreciation. I don't necessarily think they don't appreciate their parents, but I think that they don't really know how to show it. Whether it be they don't have the language, they don't have the tools to really like show their parents, that they appreciate them. And I think a lot of times it's because, well, how I used to feel, like, the generation gap is so big that how did my parents relate to me?
you know, because usually parents want to make this huge differentiating factor between their child. Like, I am here, you are there, you stay in your child's place, right? So when you create that barrier, again, this goes back to like how we were saying before, how we're friends, right? I'm your mother, and you know I will bust you down, but, but I'm just kidding. But I'm also your friend, right? And there's a certain respect level there, because when you get older, you kind of realize like, oh, you know, when you hit certain ages and stages where your parents were, like, oh, you know, you kind of get these aha moments, and you realize that you guys were just worlds apart. But the advantage that the parent has is that you've been your child's age before. You haven't been my age before. You haven't done some of the things I've done before. You haven't had kids, you haven't been married, like all these different things that you haven't been. So I kind of have the upper hand in a sense of experience, right? And a sense of wisdom via experience, right? Just being like, just being in the world a little bit longer. And so I think a lot of times parents, we weaponize that experience, right? And because there's some things we don't want our kids to know when we were their age, right? That's a lot of things, right? But I think that if we just let our guard down and say, hey, watching your kid go through a heartbreak is like heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. But, letting them know, I've been there before. I'm here for you. All those types of things, instead of, well, you shouldn't have been dating so-and-so. It's like, what? That's not what they need right now. They need you to guide them, love on them. They need you to take the experience that you had when you were their age and someone broke your heart and offer those tools to them. They don't need to be judged in that moment. So I'm saying that, I think that if a child is having a relationship like that with their parent, how do you get through to someone that you feel you can't relate to, or who won't understand you? Sometimes I think that could be, part of the major issues sometimes, Yeah. But you have, and this is where we have these conversations, and I'm like, will you come? This is her privilege.
What's my privilege?
You have family privilege. You have parental relationship privilege. You have, you know what I mean? So you're in your world, you're like, well, my mom talks to me. My dad talks to me. Like, you can't go. And it's like, well, that's not, in the bigger grand scheme of things, that's not really normal, because it's usually either a dysfunction. Maybe people are talking to their kids about things they shouldn't be talking about. It's like, you're talking to them, but or not. Don't talk about that, or why are they exposed to that, or this, that, or whatever. But we're going to talk about, speaking of like Barbie, right? Our girl Barbie. Hey, Barbie.
Let's go party.
Right. So, I think it's interesting how. Well, let me say this, and I know I'm talking a lot this time. I know I'm talking a lot. But I was, as much as I wanted a little girl, I was afraid that you wouldn't like me. And I'll tell you why.
Wow.
I know. Because ever since I was like a teenager, little girls love me. And I was like, you know what? It'd just be my luck that I have a little girl, and she'd be totally opposite from me, totally just not like me, like would hate me and just be like totally different, right? So, of course, those first couple of years, it was I was like, see? No, I'm just kidding. But
That must have been really like hard to. That must have been really hard to take in because, I mean, I'm just going to say this really quick. If you've been like fearing that and then suddenly your child is just like a hothead, that
I know
that could be really concerning and really disappointing.
I don't think, but you know what's funny? I don't think, I'm saying that now, but back then it was just like, I don't think I was consciously thinking that. I was just like, you know, whoo, this girl is something else, you know?
Yeah.
But I think that we are a lot different. So let me say that.
I don't think so.
We are different. We're different in a lot of ways, but we're alike in a lot of ways too. You know? So like, but my point is the way that we're different, we respect our differences.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that, so really quickly, when she was 2, I was so excited because I was a ballerina. Put her in, that's what my dream for my little girl was like, yeah, it's a ballerina, just like her mommy. And so I put her in a class. She was 2, and it was not a mommy and me class. And I was so excited about that. And she just, if you've ever listened to our podcast before, you know that Kendall Joy didn't start coming around until she was about 3.5. So she was 2. And it just was a disaster. And I remember us walking to the car, and I was just like almost in tears. And I was telling my husband Harold and our son Justin, I was like, because you know they were with me, and I was like, she just didn't listen. How come she just couldn't do what the other kids did, and why didn't she just like pay attention? And my husband was like, DaNietra, she's 2. She's a baby. Like, what do you want her to do? And so I was just like, you know what? She is going to just have to, like, do stuff. Like, you know, you're going to have to, I'm not going to make you do anything. That was, I was like, oh, she's very strong-willed. So I knew that actually when the day you were born, you put your foot up on the thing when they were trying to, like, get your, like, length and all that other stuff, and the nurse took your foot off, and you put it back, and they're like, wow, this girl is something else. Like, girl, you was something else. Do you hear me? So I was like, okay. I knew that I had to raise you very intentionally.
That's really funny that like you use strong-willed, because when I think of myself, those aren't like one of the things. Like one of the things that we were talking about earlier was like fashion. And whenever there's a new trend, I always like come up to my mom and I'm like, oh, I want to shop based on this trend. First it was cottagecore, yes. Then it was angelcore, then it was coquette, then it was office siren.
Oh my God, you're missing like probably 15 or 20 in between.
Now it's
those.
Kawaii too. Oh my God. There's a lot of trends, and
a lot of them, like every 30 seconds. And I'm like, Kendall Joy, just dress how you want. Like, why do you have this? But
these trends are how I want. I just change them. You know, they've always involved pink in some way.
Well, that's where she get it from her mom.
Yeah.
So pink.
There was the one
thing.
Like goth phase.
Yeah.
But
she went through all these phases, and I think the thing of it is because I've always respected your decisions, or not. Well, when I say that, I tried to guide you because there's been some wild choices, but I'm saying for the most part, if you wanted to, like, you know, have this like goth phase, whatever you wanted to do, sometimes you have to let people just go through it. So
Yeah.
I just want to just kind of end on that. We'll talk about fashion later because we're fashion girls, but we'll talk about that later and those different stories. But I think it's just very important to just show up the best way that you can, and just know that your kids see you, even if they don't tell you. I'm glad that we had our moment today. That really blessed me, because it shows that when you show up for your kids, that they will show up in the way that God um, is showing up for them or wants them to show up in life. So, so let us know the different ways that you show up in your child's life. And if you are a child, tell us, appreciate your parents in the comments. Let us know how your mom, your dad, your aunt, your uncle, your grandma, your grandfather, whoever has imparted into you, let us know how you appreciate them. Okay?
Yes.
Yes.
And make sure to follow us.
Yes. And hit that subscribe button.
Yes.
Ding, 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 ding.
But also follow us on Instagram at Pink Society Podcast.
Yes.
And Facebook.
And Facebook. Yep, we're on Facebook as well. So make sure you follow us on all our social media platforms. And yeah, we want to get to know you. And you never know, we might pick a little special topic reading these comments and make sure we discuss it. So if you want, that's another thing. If you want us to discuss something, you have a question that you want to know, make sure you put that in the comments and it may show up in our next episode. So thank you for joining us today, and we will see you soon.
See you soon.
Bye, Pink Society.
Bye.